Hello and welcome to the Monday, April 19th, 2021 meeting of the East Lampeder Township Board of Supervisors. My name is Corey Meyer. I'm calling the meeting to order. With me in the room is Supervisor Dave Buckwalter, Vice Chairman John Blowers, Supervisor Ethan Demi, and on the phone, on the Zoom, we have Supervisor Glenn Eberly. Glenn, can you hear us? You're muted. Glenn, you're muted. Hold on. Try.
Is that better?
Yeah, that sounds great. Can you hear us okay?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Good to see you, Glenn. Okay, also we have Township Manager Ralph Hutchison and Tara Hitchens as well. It says Susan Pfeiffer in front of you. That's what threw me off. Our Director of Zoning. Okay. Next on the agenda, we have the pledge to the flag. Please join me in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda, we have public comment for non-agenda items only. So, assuming, Jeff, you're here for the other item. No other agenda items for public, no other public comment. Tara, any public comment on the Zoom?
Not on the Zoom.
Okay.
And I have none in email.
Okay. We will continue then. We have for the consent agenda, we have a few items. We have 4A, approval of the minutes of the Monday, April 5th, 2021 regular meeting. And then we have approval to pay invoices from all funds for a total of $313,775.36. One item of note, $8,111 to Weaver Associates Incorporated for the new Epson office copier and printer, and that was a budgeted item. Accept the motion for the consent agenda.
Make a motion we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second. Motion was made by John, second by Ethan. Any comment from the board or the public or anyone in the room? Roll call vote. Glenn?
Aye.
Kate? Aye. John?
Aye.
Ethan? Aye. Chair, aye. Consent agenda passes. Thank you. Okay, next we have 5 old business. We have McDonald's restaurant request for modifications of approval condition. Is there anyone here for that item? Okay. How are you?
Good. You mind if I remove my mask?
Absolutely. You can remove your mask. Thank you.
Good evening. Ambrose Hines, Stevens and Lee, attorney for the applicant McDonald's LLC. We were here back in February on an approval for Easttown Mall. It was a minor plan involving a reconfiguration of the drive-through to provide for a side-by-side drive-through. It was a Zoom meeting, so I apologize if I don't look familiar on the Zoom call. So back in February, we ultimately, the plan was approved. And there were a couple waivers relating to the plan scale, et cetera, that were minor in nature. But one of the things that came up during that meeting, and there was a lengthy discussion about, was with respect to the township streetscape proposal, in particular, the plan to have a walk/bike path along the frontage in this location on Oakview Drive, is it? Road, Oakview Road, sorry. And there's an existing sidewalk that's in that right of way that meets the township standards for sidewalks, but the bike path/walk path would be 12 feet wide. The existing path is 5 feet, and there's approximately another 5 feet of area between the edge of the sidewalk and the curb. If you recall the conversation, we had expressed reservations or concerns about trying to expand that path, which we don't have a problem with conceptually, but it would create issues zoning wise and then also some potential stormwater concerns and potential concerns with removing some existing trees that were along the frontage there. So as a result of that discussion, I had expressed to the board that we felt that maybe there was a way we could work with staff to try to provide that vision of having the streetscape plan or a path along that frontage, and that McDonald's would install that by expanding the sidewalk. What we then did after that meeting, the decision came out, and the specific decision written did express that condition as that the applicant shall work with staff to ensure that Board of Supervisors trail vision along the Route 30 streetscape plan, which is shown to traverse along the west side of Oakview Road, be established somewhere between the curb and the parking area of the property. And my understanding was it wasn't exactly stated that way, but being as it may, we didn't have a conceptual problem with that, so we went about proposing something to the staff that we felt would meet that proposal. And I have actually from Bowler, Seth Gaiman is on the line, and he would have what we propose, and I could just show that for you if Tara would allow him to.
Seth, you should have the ability to share. And
Can everyone see that?
we can hear you. It looks like it's still loaded. Yep, it's there.
Okay. So yeah, this is obviously the site, and what we're showing along the frontage of South Oakview Road was it's a little bit, but I don't know if you can zoom in a little bit, Seth. It's a little small on this screen from my eyesight. Maybe it's worse than yours. But if you can see the red lines there, that's delineating really an expansion of the existing sidewalk, and the edge is shown right, really almost directly on the property line, although it comes off the property line at some points. So the total width that we were proposing on this was between 8.6 and 9.1 feet wide, and it would reduce that area between the curb and the sidewalk down to around 2 feet in some instances, maybe up to 3 feet, depending on how I figure we weren't going to change the western edge of the sidewalk, just expand the sidewalk. So we proposed that to staff. The response that we got back from staff, and I can allow Ralph to elucidate his view on it after I'm done, but the response that we got is that they were conceptually okay with the width issue, but they did not like the idea of limiting or further reducing the distance between the edge of the edge of the pathway and the curb, and that they wanted to maintain that 5-foot separation. So we went back to the drawing board. So this was at the end of February. We went back to the drawing board to see if we could come up with some creative solution that would maybe be able to move that sidewalk onto the site and maintain that width of 5 feet between the edge of the path and the curb. We had discussions with the solicitor as well as staff about doing that and how that would work, including possibly having the municipality take that on of going to the zoning hearing board and asking for a variance. That idea didn't really get traction. And then at the end of March, we heard back from staff an alternative proposal, and the idea was that they were considering reducing the width of Oakview Road or narrowing down Oakview Road, which then would allow for both the 5-foot pathway, 5-foot separation and the full 12-foot path within the right of way.
Basically, the curb would move east.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then staff provided us with the possibility of then just doing a contribution fee in lieu of. Again, conceptually, we don't have a problem with that, but the number that we were quoted from staff in terms of what they were looking for us to do was somewhere in the neighborhood. I'm not going to give you the exact number, but it was somewhere in the neighborhood of $60,000. For the nature of the project that we're doing with this minor project, that would represent basically 100% of the budget for this entire project. So doubling of the project cost. That is simply was not feasible. We had further discussion with staff on trying to get that number down to what we felt was more appropriate. Staff eventually did revise that down to around 30, which would, in staff's view, represent the cost of the installation of just the path and the ADA ramps and some other improvements that were related to that, including clearing and grubbing. Our position is still that that's just not doable in light of what the budget here is. And we also believe the estimate is significantly more than what we would pay if we were to install this ourselves. McDonald's, and really I should say McDonald's, but just so everyone's clear, the local operator is the one that pays the project costs on this, and they're in charge of the budget. And, you know, they've got to make the numbers work to make this worth their while going forward. So they are prepared to offer $10,000 toward the cost, which is what we estimate our cost would be to install a path, to remove it and install it. And so they'd be prepared to offer that as a fee in lieu of actually installing it, or they would be willing to go back to what we originally proposed and in fact install a path in that location, even if we had to take out the existing sidewalk to do it.
Just to be clear, when you say the original proposal, you mean this proposal, 9.7?
Right.
2 feet.
Right, exactly. With a just a much narrower separation. And I understand staff's position that they didn't like that idea. They wanted to maintain that separation. That's understandable, but we have to work within the parameters. And there's a timing concern here too. I don't know when this project is slated to begin or when it's supposed to happen. So, the developer and the operator really would like to see, some sort of time frame as to if we've made this contribution, that this is actually going to happen. They're going to make this, payment. The other thing I would mention is, again, this is coming from a position of getting this plan moved forward. We've been kind of stuck in limbo here now for about 2 months. For this type of project, they really just need to either get it moving, or if it's not going to go forward, they may be prepared to walk away. But the point is that we've come a long way from when we were back at the zoning hearing board last fall, but we're sort of stuck here at this point where there's really just nothing more to give in the budget toward this contribution. So what we're asking for the board tonight is to accept one of those options, either the $10,000 or the installation of what we proposed, which again, I know is not ideal, but that's what we're prepared to do. If not, then, we'll reevaluate where we go from here.
And for recall, the original request is for drive-through lanes, right?
If you could zoom out, Seth.
I feel like it was last month, but it clearly was longer.
It was February when we were here.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry. Yeah. So if you look, it's just that opposite corner there.
Yeah.
We were reconfiguring that drive-through and removed a couple parking spaces.
Yeah.
And again, part of what we were intending to do there, no increase in impervious, so we didn't have to deal with the fact that we're already non-conforming on impervious. We didn't have to deal with the stormwater impacts of increasing impervious coverage. So that's really the intent there. And I'll let Ralph talk if you want.
Yeah. If there are any questions from the board or please.
From the staff's perspective, what was the proposal if we basically use our right of way to construct was the plan to construct the full path as envisioned in the streetscape plans for the grass median strip and then the full 12 feet?
If we can move the curb to the east, yes.
Would it be feasible to basically say at the condition is, so at the time that we move the curb to there, the applicant installs the full 12-foot path in that dirt space, since you can do it for real cheap.
Yeah, say, and again, part of the issue is a timing. At this point, the developer is not looking for a condition that's hanging out there. You know, we either want to do this and move on, or we'll pay money. But it's, you know, the fact is, you know, this really should have been permitted in April so that we could be under operation. That's part of what their anticipation was. You know, now we're late April. It's not going to happen for another
For
month.
sidewalk improvements all the time. So, I mean, if
Yeah.
they basically said at the time that we bump the curb out, we'll defer the sidewalk improvement until then.
Yeah, and if it were just a question of actually installing the macadam at 12-foot width, you know, that's something possibly they would agree with. But again, what they're suggesting is we can do this for $10,000, and I guess we could, you know, there would have to be parameters. See, the problem with the deferral on, you know, sidewalk issue, you know, we've got the details in the ordinance about exactly what that means, how wide it is, what the depth is, what the, you know, what the underlay is, what the specifications would be. This is a lot. I don't know if you guys have delved into exactly what the streetscape proposal is. It's a lot less detailed.
We've deferred sections of the streetscape and we've had them installed. So we know what both those things happen. Other things.
And I don't know if that's the way you're going. That might be acceptable. I can't guarantee that they still won't say, you know, that's just not going to work.
Any other questions? Okay. Hutch, if you just want to give any context, if they're adding anything to that.
Sure. One of the other concerns that we had with their original proposal about widening the existing sidewalk was, you know, potentially a difference in materials and a difference in the installation, such that, you know, those materials wouldn't match up after a freeze thaw season, perhaps. So that was one of the other concerns that we had about that original proposal. The numbers that we provided the applicant through these discussions about the costs were all numbers provided to us by the township engineer who's been working with us on the streetscape plan. So it's not, they aren't construction costs that township staff just said, well, this is what we think it'll cost. These came from, you know, the township's engineer who's familiar with these construction practices and materials and methods, et cetera. So there's obviously a difference of view between the applicant's engineer and the township's engineer. I just wanted to clarify that they weren't numbers that Tara and I came up with.
Yeah, and that I accept that that's true. And, you know, in a normal situation, if we're talking about something that was an ordinance requirement and we're talking about the two competing engineers, eventually everybody would come to an understanding of what that number would be. You know, this is a little bit different. Again, this wasn't a requirement of the ordinance. This is the streetscape plan and we're, you know, it's sort of after the fact we're trying to accommodate, but, you know, we've only got a limited number that we can work with.
In terms of the timing, you know, everybody's aware that the board and with staff's assistance, we had applied for and were granted some funding to complete a streetscape related trail from Strasburg Pike to Oakview Road. We haven't gotten the agreement from county planning yet on that project, so we haven't been able to start the engineering on it yet. We had originally hoped that we'd have enough funding through that project to go all the way from Strasburg Pike to South Oakview Road and up to Lincoln Highway. The amount of funding that was actually granted through that process was less than what we had applied for. So we don't think that we're going to be able to get all the way to Lincoln Highway, but we're not sure. Depends upon, you know, how the design goes and what construction costs are at the time that that we get to that point. So in terms of the timing, as Attorney Hines indicates, we have a little bit of uncertainty on the timing as well. As soon as we get that agreement in place, we're going to move as quickly as we possibly can to get the project under construction, and hopefully through that process determine exactly how far we can go. But we don't know that at this point in time.
Just not to put you on the spot, do you have like a ball? I mean, are we talking within the next couple of years, or do you have any idea?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we expect to get the agreement sometime this year. We had hoped that it would be by the middle of this year, so we can then start the engineering process.
Yeah.
Engineering of a project like this is likely to take, 6-8 months
Mhm.
of process. Thankfully, we don't have to deal with PennDOT. So, well, take that back.
Mhm.
If we are able to get up to Lincoln Highway, we will have to get an HOP at the intersection. But
Unless this section's done, they can go.
that's true, but they're not going to move the curb. So, we do need to move the curb in order to get in what we want to get in. So,
We conditionally approved this with adding this on.
But yeah, the condition was that we go work with staff to try to
Come up with a solution.
meet their
Come up with a
solution.
solution.
And unfortunately, we're at an impasse of
Yeah.
where we can go.
Understand.
Yeah.
So we've got a business that's been there for all my life. And there's no land development going on here. This is
Well, that's land development.
but
yeah,
without
sure.
it's
developed.
developed. They're not adding anything to the lanes that are being restructured for the drive-through, correct?
they're adding a second drive-through lane to the property. That's why it had to come in as a land development plan.
Yeah. So
It does trigger land development. Are they adding? They're adding something onto the building itself.
no.
No,
Just restriping drive-through lanes.
So there's going to be a new island.
There's an
island.
island and curb in there now that's being added. That's
removing some parking spaces.
restriping and then adding that center island to basically create a separation within the drive-through. That's what's happening.
I guess where I was headed with the timing, what I heard was, 2 or 3 years. I think at least I would feel comfortable. I don't know if the board would feel comfortable with 3 to 4 years as a time frame that we could get the project done by. Again,
I
not
think that
really
would be
knowing,
acceptable.
not really knowing if we're going to be able to get all the way to Lincoln Highway.
And Bruce, I'm sorry, you said.
I think it's just they want to have some sort of time frame,
timeframe.
right?
Yeah.
That
Understood.
is clear. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. The
So
board,
does
please.
this move mean that you'll move forward on your plan?
If the board's willing to accept one of those two options, we would move forward with the plan as is. If not, then I don't know what the operator would do, but I suspect that they might actually just walk. Mhm.
Or adding additional concrete to the existing sidewalk?
Yeah, and actually, my understanding is that we would even be willing to take out the concrete and do it to address the concern that he raised about that. If that's what was the ultimate conclusion, I think we would probably do that.
make sure I understand. You showed a plan up here that had, 9 feet or so and. and
Between 8.5 to 9.1, something like that.
Or $10,000. Right, $10,000
Correct.
contribution.
Yep.
And you're saying on, I'm sorry, Dave, I'm just trying to clarify what you were asking. Are you saying that the applicant would be okay with the 12-foot?
No, what he was asking
You're
is,
still on the 9-foot.
yeah, so what he was asking
Okay,
is,
understood.
would we
So I
expand
think-
it? Yeah.
I think the board, for board purposes, the applicant is either at, this 9-foot plan, not the 12-foot that is in the streetscape plan, or
Mhm.
$10,000. The 9-foot plan would be with the materials that we have outlined in the streetscape plan.
Yeah, I believe it would be the macadam in
Yeah.
the underlay that they had proposed. Yeah.
And going forward, if we do improvements to Oakview, South Oakview,
Yeah.
we would end up moving curb out, therefore providing a wider grass strip separating.
Right. It would still be,
That would be
it'd still
on,
be 9 feet. The path, the actual
Correct.
macadam path would still be 9 feet unless for some reason we did something different. But yeah, at that point, if we moved the curb, there'd be extra grass, right, Hutch?
There would. From staff's perspective, the design, all the way from Strasburg Pike, coming to Oakview Road and getting up Oakview Road as far as we can is 5 feet of grass behind the curb and 12-foot wide
Right.
trail. So
It would shrink. Right.
that would be less than ideal.
From a construction standpoint, if they were to essentially build out the path almost to the curb, could we come in later and move the curb without destroying
Yeah,
the path?
That was a
say
concern the
Yeah.
engineers
Okay.
too, is
Yeah,
that as soon as you start disturbing
You're
that,
gonna start
You're
to
gonna
really
lose-
mess with it.
Yeah. So it's not like we can add on,
So if the $10,000, if we would do that second option,
Yeah.
that sits until we're ready to move the curb and then proceed forward.
right now, Attorney Hines is asking for there be a time parameter
Yeah, I
on that arrangement.
3 to 4 years is
Yeah.
what we've heard. So if we don't go through and move the curb at all then, and we took option 1, we'd have up to a 9-foot wide path there. Basically butting up, almost up against the curb. Maybe 2 feet of grass, it says right there. Maybe 2 feet of grass. Which we've done in other places, haven't we? Haven't we looked at portions where the path is coming up against? I mean, in front of the Country Inn and Suites. There's no way you're gonna have a 5-foot, or in front of the old Joe Myers.
over the bridge.
That's not the actual path. Remember, Tanger
Yeah.
took the path
Goes
to
back
the rear.
behind and,
Right.
So they only
Right.
needed to do the 6 feet of sidewalk
Yeah.
there.
yeah.
I mean, honestly, I'm leaning towards $10,000 or a dollar amount and get it right the first time, meaning
Get it right when we do it.
when we do it. Yeah, although at a more expensive price, but yeah, that's just where my head is right now. Without emotion, without anything, those are just my personal thoughts at this point. Glenn, any comments? You're serious.
Well, I think you're right about accepting the 10,000 because at this point, we don't know if we're going to be extending to Route 30 anyway. And if we're going to move the curb, we're probably going to get into stormwater and all kinds of stuff. So at this point, either do the sidewalk they're proposing or take the $10,000. We talked at the last meeting about extending the sidewalk out to the curb, which would give us 10 feet. That's a little wider. That 2 feet of grass in there is practically worthless for the amount of money you'd have to pay to maintain it. So if you want to go with what they're proposing, I would move it out to the curb. That would give us 10 feet or a little more. But otherwise, I'd be in favor of just taking the money and waiting till we actually do it ourselves.
Yeah, staff thoughts? Engineer, give any thoughts to the removing the grass and just extending it the full to the curb?
The concern there was then if we do come forward to and move the curb,
Yeah,
then
then you
we're gonna have to redo the
Yeah.
whole thing again anyway.
Yeah, I'm gonna reiterate, I think taking the monetary contribution at this point is, I want McDonald's to be successful. I think, John, where you were going, they've been a successful business. I think they have taken care of that area of the township and, it's a rather small project, although we are making all properties along, the Route 30 corridor, do certain things to meet our vision of the plan, which I completely agree with, but
I guess it's a statement of, maybe it's a statement that, and maybe I'm contradicting things I've done in the past. I don't know. But I guess I look at it as kind of a statement of principle in some ways, and that is, we as local government, we definitely have a responsibility to provide infrastructure and to make sure that infrastructure is in place. As property owners, they also have a responsibility to contribute to that infrastructure and to put it in. I get that. But I mean, I saw $150,000 here somewhere. At some point,
I believe our engineer thinks it's worth 27,000.
That's just the cost of the
That's just
path.
the cost of the path.
Yeah, now, yeah, his original estimate, which was moving the curb, which means we have to move the median that's in the middle of the road and restripe everything, do the ramps. It was close to
It was a domino of
$150,000.
$150,000, And I know staff wasn't, but we're not proposing that for the applicant, but I guess it's just at some point, I think if we want to put this pathway through, we got creative with Tanger, as Tara just said, if we want to put this pathway through, and we are doing it to improve the businesses in the community, we are doing it to improve the experience of the visitor and to the residents. I mean, how much do you throw back onto existing businesses that are there, that are looking? And I know it triggers land development, but in my estimation, there is minimal impact that it's doing on this piece of ground. I'm in favor of doing the $10,000, and we wait to see what happens over the next 3 to 4 years.
Finally, I'm in favor of monetary contribution. I'm not sure if 10,000 is the appropriate number or not. That's the number they put out there. I don't know if 15,000 is more fair or 10,000 is more fair. Clearly, the estimate from our engineer, which we trust on every other document we see, says 27,000. So, I'm sure the right number is somewhere between 10 and 27. But again, I'm still in favor of some sort of monetary contribution. Other thoughts from the board?
One option, because we're unsure about how much we're gonna be able to get done with the grant money coming in, would be accepting a lower amount than our engineer said, but having it apply towards that specific project. Because I think there's a case to be made that the foot traffic that will increase potentially to that location, that McDonald's, once you're making a quick connector piece, whether it's built there's existing sidewalks, so bike traffic, maybe not. People are going to start using that a lot more, because you can now legally bike through our park for the first time. So if they're willing, I'm willing to accept a lower dollar amount if they're willing to put it towards the project, whether or not it makes it all the way up Oakview Road.
Okay. Dave, any other thoughts? Okay.
We're asking for a local business to make contribution to a project in an economy we've made some concessions for
Other businesses.
some others.
Okay.
We have. Just a thought.
Yep, understood. Okay, well, someone's gonna have to make a motion with a dollar amount. I'm assuming a motion would be appropriate for this to give guidance.
Yes, they're asking for a modification
Yeah.
to the condition of approval.
Okay, so a motion, modification, conditional approval. And if everyone's in approval of some sort of dollar amount, I'll be looking for that dollar amount in the motion.
If I'm correct, Mr. Chairman, the condition of approval didn't mention dollars.
It
The
did not.
condition of approval just said
Discussion,
discuss with
negotiation.
staff,
Find a way to
negotiate
get
with
the path
staff.
done.
What was that?
Find a way to get the path.
Find a way to get the path.
Yeah.
done. Yeah. Okay.
Negotiate with staff to find a
Okay.
way. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right.
I'll take a stab at a motion.
You can take a
Thank you.
stab.
Thanks, sir.
Ethan.
Make a motion to modify the conditional improvement for the McDonald's restaurant to a payment of $10,000 for our streetscape plan connecting Strasburg Pike and Oakview Road, in lieu of making those improvements on site.
Motion was made.
Is there
To
anything
be
that,
to be spent within the next 4 years.
Motion second by Dave. Any other comments from the board?
No,
Yep, Glenn, any comments?
no, sir.
Okay. Any comments from, I'll ask the applicant first.
I don't have any comments.
Okay. Any comments from the public?
Nothing on email.
Okay, nothing on email, nothing on Zoom. Okay, we'll do a roll call vote. In favor of the motion, Glenn,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Ethan?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Members,
Thanks for coming in.
appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have 6A, resolution regarding planning module for Turkey Hill Car Wash 5, Strasburg Pike.
5B,
Oh, I'm so sorry. Thank you.
please.
Sure. I cut that from the record. 5B, we have old business request for time extension to record approved plan 2107 Ben Franklin Boulevard. I see Tony. Anyone else here for that item?
And Mark.
Oh, hey, Mark. You're so close to the camera, I didn't recognize you. There you go. Now I
Well,
see you.
I think I fell forward when you jumped over our agenda item and moved into the next category.
I apologize.
I wasn't worried.
We've been here, we had a conditional
Well,
use hearing at 5:30 PM and we're still going strong. So it's all yours, Mark.
I think, I hope, let's put it that way. I think, and I hope we can keep this short. Earlier this month, on April 5th, the board conditionally approved the Ben Franklin Boulevard right-of-way plan. We have accepted the conditional approval and sent the acceptance letter to Tara. As part of the initial submission, we had requested a 180-day extension over and above the 90 to satisfy conditions and record the plan. And our thinking is that we're going to mesh the HOP process and the recording of the plan so we can look at accommodating the plan recording and the granting of the right-of-way, working with the township, and mesh it with the highway occupancy permit process for the Walnut Street extension plan. So at this time, what we are requesting the board is a 180-day extension, which would take us through December 31, 2021, to satisfy conditions and record the plan.
Okay. Any other comments from the applicant? Okay. Just want to be clear, the letter states 180-day time extension. I'm assuming you've done the calculation. Is that actually December 31st or are you looking for 180 days or till December 30th, like 31st?
I'd ask for just through December 31st, 2021.
Okay.
Fine.
Got it. Okay.
Make a motion that we approve the request for a time extension, record approved plan number 21-07 Ben Franklin Boulevard through December 31st, 2021.
Okay, motion made by John,
Second.
second by Dave. Any other comments from the board? Any comments from the public? Okay, we'll do a roll call vote in favor. Glenn,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Ethan.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion passes. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, you too.
Okay, back to 6A, resolution regarding planning module for Turkey Hill Car Wash, 5 Strasburg Pike. Anyone here for that item? Okay, Hutch, do you want to give context?
Sure. The applicants indicated that through their calculations, they need additional EDU capacity to serve this new use on the property. 9 EDUs is what they're looking for. And so that triggers the need to prepare a planning module. The board's part of that is to adopt a resolution to submit the planning module to DEP. Staff recommends that the board adopt the resolution.
Gentlemen?
Just a comment, I drove by, there were people outside looking like they were about to build something. So
Okay, I'm not going to hold my breath, but I'm,
and they're applied for a sign bearer. So
I saw the
Glenn.
zoning,
Glenn's
I saw the zoning hearing sign, which is a good sign. Okay, do we have a motion to approve the resolution?
so moved.
So moved by
Second.
Ethan, second by John. Any other comments from the board? Any other comments from the public? Uh,
10 years ago.
Two-
yeah.
Two cars ago.
I understand because might not be talked about if we're doing something.
Yeah, we set a question in the room from Mr. Hatfield about when the car wash may be getting built. This has been a,
Well, when it was supposed to be.
oh, when it was
I think
supposed to be built. Yeah, this has been a long-standing project on our agenda. And we've given multiple,
This has been on your agenda since 2014.
2014.
Yes,
Okay, and it's 2021, so about 7 years.
yes.
So
There's different plans.
different owners,
Been
different
involved.
plans, different designs.
We've all been reelected.
It's changed multiple times. So, okay. Any other question or any other comments from the public?
Yeah,
Yes.
what's an EDU?
Good
Sorry,
question.
I apologize for using
Yeah.
that. It's equivalent dwelling unit. So it's a measure of how much flow a particular use is going to generate as an amount equal to one or more equivalent dwelling units.
So a home typically has one dwelling unit.
Correct.
This is asking for 9 additional.
8 additional.
Eight.
Nine
Total
total.
9? Okay.
They would have to
Okay.
get one, but they're doing
Yeah.
8 more.
Wow. So substantial amount of water flow.
Again, they came to us
Yeah.
with this information, so
Okay.
they have to process the module.
Any other comments from the public? Okay, a lot of excitement. We'll take a vote. Glenn,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Ethan.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Okay. Next on the agenda, we have 6B, Popeyes Restaurant Land Development Plan, number 2105, 2246 Lincoln Highway East. And Chris, are you here for that item?
I am, yes. Good
Okay.
evening.
Good evening. I think we gave you sharing access. You should be able to share your screen. Floor is yours.
Great, thank you. Okay, if you can see that, appreciate the board's time this evening. We are here again, as you pointed out, for the Popeyes along Lincoln Highway. I'm joined this evening via Zoom by a few members of Dreher Group. If questions come up on the operational side of the project, and our goal for this evening is to introduce you to the project site, talk about what we're proposing as far as the redevelopment along the corridor, where we're at with municipal review, and then we'd be seeking your action tonight on the plan. So with that, the screen you should see before you is nothing more than just a Google site map, just to point out where we're talking about. If you can see my mouse, it's 2246, which is the address of the property. It's a very small parcel. It's about 0.53 acres. It is in the C3 Regional Commercial Zoning District. Across the street would be Dutch Wonderland. As you move over towards the west, you can see the main drive into Tanger. So that's a little bit in terms of the background. What I'll do now is share some of the plans we have. Are you all able to see the existing condition plan I have up? Great. So this is a sheet right out of our plan set. So what I've done now is I've simply just zoomed in to the property. Again, what's outlined in the darker bold line is the half-acre tract that we're referring to. The existing property, if you're familiar with it, is an old Pizza Hut that we are looking to essentially do a heavy demolition of and heavy renovation, where nearly the entire building would be replaced. The existing structure that's out there is just under 3,000 square feet. I want to say around 2,900 square feet. What we're proposing to do is much like what occurred on the property immediately to the west, is a redevelopment of the parcel into a new restaurant. That restaurant has been identified in the agenda is a Popeyes with a drive-through. So I'll hop to the rendering to try to graphically depict what we're doing. So this would be your proposed condition, and the resulting renovation would be what's kind of highlighted there in that brighter gray. That building is about 2,450 square feet, so a smaller building on the property. And I think I'll point out that the existing site, as you can imagine, is almost nearly all impervious. Our proposed condition cuts back that impervious a little bit, about 3% less impervious than what's out there today. Even though we're reducing the amount of pervious, we are managing stormwater. So we'll be collecting stormwater on site via a few catch basins, piping those to a water quality structure that's proposed around this area that would then come over and connect underground to the adjoining property. We've had productive conversations with that adjoining property owner, Apple Retail. And you may recall from when that project was done, there was an easement that's in place to actually accept that stormwater management. The two driveways that exist out there, we're proposing to leave alone. However, we are taking them from what today is a full movement driveway for each driveway, and we're restricting that to just a one-way in on the western side and then a one-way out on the eastern side. And really that's just to provide a level of control, access management along Route 30. We did talk a little bit with staff about whether or not this would get, I'll call it narrowed, but we did look at truck turning movements for this site. And we certainly want to, I think, keep it where it is right now, particularly on the western side. And our thought was just to leave it as it is on the eastern side. And what we did do is on the plan, we added do not enter signs here just to prevent people from coming in that side of the property. And then we also, when people come in the site, can jump to the rendering again. There's some signage here that would show the drive-through where you enter the property and head into the drive-through lane, or just come into the property through the parking lot itself. I'll also point out to the board, there was a question about the curb line being right here when someone comes into the property. So we looked at discussing with the Planning Commission, pulling back this curb line a bit, just to allow a little more room there when someone comes through to make the decision, either head into the parking lot or head into the drive-through. And I think when we went back and looked at the turning movement, I think that'll help with fire apparatus as well as delivery trucks coming into the parcel. As far as site layout, we have the required parking per zoning. Again, we have a drive-through that's one-way circulation across the back here. And as far as public sewer and water, the property is existing today being served by public water through the city of Lancaster, public sewer through the East Lampeter Township Sewer Authority. We have reviews back from both groups, essentially very minor comments with some notations and clarification about the actual connections out at Route 30 for the services to the property. I mentioned the property is a half acre, so well under the 1 acre threshold of an NPDES permit. However, again, I did mention we are doing stormwater design for the water quality portion of the project. An ENS plan has been submitted to the Conservation District. We did receive a review on that with very minor comments. We expect to get that in this week. So I expect that to get turned around pretty quickly. So where that brings us to right now is we have the March 16th, 2021 review letter by your township engineer, DMA. We've gone through that. We've had some dialogue with staff about how to address some of the comments there. Really, many of them are adding notations. Many of them are some clarification on some details or modifications of details, not the typical administrative, such as letter of credit, agreements, and so forth. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about that letter. And with that letter, there are the recommendations on our requested waiver. As typical with a redevelopment, We've done a number of these now along Route 30. With these properties, you tend to have some modifications or waivers. And we do have those waivers listed in the review letter from DMA. All those modifications are recommended to be granted by DMA, and the Planning Commission as well recommended those for approval. So with that, I'll try to answer any questions you may have, whether about the project or the review from DMA.
Yeah, Chris, thank you. So where the person actually orders, is that the rear of the store?
Yeah, let me zoom in here. So this is I'll bring that up even bigger so you can see it. So I'll walk you through the sequence of coming through the drive-through. So when someone enters the property, right away they'll see that this is a drive-through. It has what they call the vehicle clearance pole, just to make sure a vehicle that isn't too large doesn't make its way through the drive-through. And someone would wrap around, get to this point here, which is the menu preview board. So that's where someone can understand what they desire to order. And then when they come around the back here, we have here order confirmation board and canopy here. And then they would come around here up to the window and actually pick up their order here. So in terms of stacking, because I know that's always a concern, especially in the chicken business, because I know that came up about Chick-fil-A. And I think they mentioned at that time, at that meeting, they would certainly aspire to be as busy as a Chick-fil-A, but this is a Popeyes. In any event, your ordinance does require at least 100 feet for a drive-through for stacking. That, I believe, takes you to right about here. And you can see we have much more. I think we figured it's about a third more, so about 150 feet of stacking. So it exceeds the minimum requirement for stacking for the township.
Yeah. So Chris, my question is, with queuing, right, there's a delay. So there's going to be a delay at the preview board likely first. So I guess my question is, an estimate is fine. How many cars could fit between that board and Lincoln Highway? Or frankly, the place where someone needs to make a decision if you go to your right or you go through the drive-through lane. So essentially from that preview board up the screen, how many cars can fit? Yeah, from there.
There. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me see. So that's about 40 feet there.
Okay.
If I go 40, say to about here.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you gave a very generous 20 feet, you're going to have at least 2 cars to that point, and then you can have another car back here.
Yeah. Yeah. So, hey, I want you to be busier than Chick-fil-A, right? Or as busy as Chick-fil-A. I think that'd be great. However, you get, 4 cars and now you're stacking onto Lincoln Highway. Is that a concern of the applicant? One, I'll ask that question first, then I have a follow-up question.
Yeah. I don't know if whether David or Erica, if you have thoughts on that.
Yeah, if I could interject, this is David Herbert. Good evening. The preview board is not really a place for anyone to stop and think about what they want to order. It's a place where when they are in line and there's a car in front of them, that they take the opportunity to look at the board to decide what they want to do when they get to the order board. Because stopping there creates no benefit for them because they can't speak into the board to order. So typically, their goal and objective is to get to where they can actually place the order. And that preview board, again, is just there as a convenience for them to see what they'd like to order. So when they get to the order board, they can. So it's actually meant to speed the service through the drive-through. So if we didn't have that preview board, someone would always stop and probably take a little bit more time at the actual order board. So it's meant, again, for the speed of service. In my 30 years of doing fast food, typically if you want to do a queue, if you will, that would be the first car that would stop the rest of the line from going through would be at the actual order board. And then typically in the industry, there are three cars between the order board and the window that just allows enough time for the server at the window to serve that customer and get it out the window and take the money.
So at least that's, again, my experience with designing and building these types of facilities.
That's helpful. So between the preview board and where you would actually order maybe a couple more cars between those, sort of around that curb.
That's
Maybe.
right.
Okay. And are you going to offer essentially curbside pickup? So order on an app or on the website, and then some sort of pickup outside of the store. So meaning I park in a spot and then the food comes out to me.
I do not believe at this location they're offering that right at the moment. Should that happen in the future at some point, they typically have you go to an assigned space in the parking lot for the server to come out and give you your food. But again, I'm not aware that at this location they're having that ability to do that.
Okay. And then just final question, I'll open it up to the board and others. I understand on the west side of the plan, there's some sort of access point from the property to the west. Is that still the case on this plan?
Go ahead and explain that, Chris.
Yep. You can see what's grayed out here is the 2232 property. And again, we've had extensive dialogue with Gary Gilbert of Apple Retail about that connection. I think we've now kind of surmised that what we're going to do is end up something like this because he had 3 parking spaces there on his property, just figuring that just made sense from curb to curb for an extension over. But really, you only need the 24-foot width that we have shown here. So these will be lined up, and Apple Retail is under construction right now and well aware that they're going to now just make that line up to the property here. That's the subject of the application tonight. So yes, it will provide that ability to cross through the 2 properties.
So if I drive through from the Apple property west of there and I want to use the drive-through, I can't, right? Because it's one way in that direction. I'd essentially have to leave the property, go left on Lincoln Highway, do Frogger, cross Lincoln Highway, and come back in.
Right. The idea is if someone wanted to come from this property and get into specifically the drive-through, they would essentially do this. We didn't feel with how small this parcel is that allowing someone to make this maneuver is a good idea. So it's one-way circulation on the property.
Okay, I'll open it up to others. Thanks for answering my questions.
Sure.
Any other questions from board members?
Does this incorporate any of the design elements of the streetscape plan? I know the county review letter mentioned that.
Yes, I will pull that up. So within our plan set, much like we did with the neighboring property to the west, we have what we call the future improvement plan that shows the introduction of the pathway across the front of the property. And in working with staff for this stretch across this property, it was requested for a 6-foot concrete path and then maintaining a minimum 5-foot buffer area. So this plan does set that up.
If I can, please, staff I have a concern that it doesn't indicate that on the measurement of 5 feet isn't indicated on that. And we do contemplate as part of some future project also moving the curb north in this location. So I would think it would be helpful to show on this plan that the curb is to be relocated and that 5-foot distance is to be incorporated into the design.
Chris, did you hear that?
Yeah, I know the 5-foot dimension. This will probably be approximate on this PDF. It's not CAD, but so we have the 5-foot that's showing just over 5 feet, but that's so the 5-foot buffer is provided on the plan as shown. The shifting of the curb I was not aware of. That's the first time I've heard that.
And yeah, the scaling, might generate 5 feet. I guess I'd feel more comfortable if there was actually the number put on the plan that it's going to be at least 5 feet.
Sure, absolutely. Yep. Yeah, we can do that. It's not a problem.
But the curb is going to be relocated north.
So the curb relocation, is that something that typically would be put on the plan? Or is that,
I mean, if you're going to reflect the future improvement out there, that would be the thing to reflect.
okay,
So I could follow that.
please,
correctly.
Chris, go. Yeah.
So you're saying that in the future, at some point, the idea is to move the curb line north 2 feet. So then as our plan is drawn, we'd have then 7 feet of buffer, which from our standpoint is fine. I just want to make sure I'm understanding it correctly.
I would say that same thing too. You just need to give the applicant clarity.
Yep.
Is he putting a line on here showing the curb at a future point north and then saying 7 feet on the drawing to reflect that the curb is going to be moved? Or does he keep it where it is, puts the 5 feet, but then we don't have a curb line on here for where it's going to be in the future then?
Right, we haven't designed that area, so we don't know exactly where the curb is going to end up. But I would suggest that an indication on the plan that says that 5-foot strip is to be a minimum of 5 feet
Right.
between the curb and the future sidewalk would be appropriate.
Okay. I follow that.
Follow that, Chris?
Right,
Yeah.
the
Well-
applicant would be installing the improvements once designed.
Chris, can you just back out just a little bit? So I know on the current Pizza Hut plan, there are parking spots sort of near the entrance, but you didn't have, essentially you didn't have the same sort of, left or right, quick, right off the highway of deciding if I should go to the, drive-through or, to regular parking. Now, I'm assuming the second use by a person or third use, the drive-through is on the left and parking is on the right. Those two front spots. So if you have a car parked in, forward and they start backing out, and now, you have a highway, right? It's called Lincoln Highway East. People coming off that highway going 10, 15 miles per hour plus, potentially turning right into a car that's backing out that way, with their back going almost into Lincoln Highway because it's one way, right?
Right.
In Pizza Hut, you could park in that same exact spot. You would back out going the opposite way and then go out that it was an entrance or an exit at that point, right? There was no, so I do have some concern. I was at Stauffer's Roarstown and I saw like 3 potential accidents in a matter of like 3 minutes sitting in my car with people backing out of sort of a similar setup. Cars were coming around the curve and cars were backing out of spots, and people are always in a rush. So, and people don't typically back in. So any thoughts on those 2 spots there? And, I realize you have to meet the minimum number of parking spots, but from past conversations with other restaurant owners, it seems like drive-through is the big business, right? I mean, so I said a lot, but can you comment on any of those items?
Yeah, sure. Let me jump back to the land development plan. So not that it's, we're not making, I guess, the situation any worse. I don't know what kind of history, if there were accidents here. You could see it, we were up probably a little tighter to Route 30 under the existing Pizza Hut. You're right that they had the ability to go out this way. If they wanted to, they could back out and exit. Under this plan, you can see the property line relationship here. versus, well, I guess it is back a little bit further here from that property line. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That might be the proposed right of way. That's the proposed right of way. I'm sorry. So this is the proposed right of way versus the existing. So this is the existing right of way. So we are up closer. That proposed right of way is probably about here. But in any event, I think that kind of ties in to the question that came up about that entrance. So I think, and we can pull this back a little more aggressively just to open that area up a bit. But as far as someone coming in the parking lot, I mean, you're right. Parking lots, I tend to grip the steering wheel a little tighter myself when I drive through a parking lot, just because people are always pulling out, pulling in. I think it just takes care. Hopefully people aren't ripping in there after coming off of 30.
Chris, could I make a suggestion? Could we not designate that very first space as employee parking? The employee being more cognizant of the road and coming once and leaving 8 hours later would just have a better handle on understanding that movement. So if we could allow us to just designate that top space, as you suggested, make it employees, and then make sure that we instruct those employees accordingly.
Like that idea. Also have your employee back in, maybe that might save a headache as well. But yeah, I think that's a good idea. I guess my other question is, do we need that cut through from the Apple property to the west? Is that necessary? I would be interested in either staff's comment or other comments on that. I typically like the idea of being able to cut through for similar properties. I get food for one kid, on the Apple property, and then I come over here and get food for the other kid over here. But the whole drive-through thing for me, that's where I'm getting caught up. I mean, clearly I could park and just go in, but so I don't know. I just want to hear other thoughts either from the board or staff on that cut through.
So as you know, staff has been working on access management
Yes.
along the Route 30 corridor, and 2232 was one of the properties adjoining that we asked for an agreement to enter into 2246. Although this is coming in as a Popeyes now, and there are multiple options over at the 2232 site, we don't know what this will be in the future.
Right.
This is in for land development now. If we don't get the access management now, we may not get it in the future.
Yeah. Okay.
I understand it may not work
Yeah,
perfectly.
but staff believes access management is more important than the downside of that. Understood.
Question I have, since we've shifted it to basically one-way traffic throughout the parcel, I was trying to think, and I looked on Google Images just for all the other drive-through restaurants that are one-way traffic through all have angled parking. Like the McDonald's we were just talking to is angled parking. Also, that McDonald's has that same back out scenario twice on there. That's just you could fit more parking in at that point, or you'd have more width to work with. But unless we would consider not having it one way in, one way out in the future with a different use. But if the goal is this is now one way in, one way out, I'd recommend you'd save a lot of space.
I think Chris should comment on whether or not.
Chris, any comments on the angling or?
I think we looked at that at one point in time, and believe it or not, like the depth of the parking spaces, it does get shorter, but when you rotate that angle, it would actually take up more horizontal space. So that's why we have the parking alignment that we do with the 90. And we have the 25-foot aisle on this side, provide space there, and 24 on this side. So it, again, it's not so much the east-west, it's more the north-south. Once you rotate those parking spaces, we end up not being able to fit in. We hit the exact quantity of spaces required by code.
Any other questions, Ethan?
How about if you put a sign at the cut through, it says no access to drive through?
Yeah, I think that's reasonable and probably.
No problem. Yeah, no problem.
So probably put that right here.
Or right turn only, right turn only.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Any other comments from staff before we put a motion out there?
The only other suggestion I was going to make would be, again, I don't mean to reference Chick-fil-A
Yep.
all the time, but at that set of parking spaces that immediately closest to the drive-through area, I'd suggest there be some sort of post and chain or barrier of some sort so that people can't just walk through the drive-through. They have to go to the crosswalk.
Right.
And cross the drive-through at the crosswalk.
Right.
It just makes it harder to step over. Every
Exactly.
time I've walked through Chick-fil-A, I step over this thing.
Chris, did you hear Hutch's suggestion for the for us to consider about the chain link? It's a chain that goes.
Typically post and
Yeah,
chain.
post chain.
Yeah.
Is that right here?
Yeah.
Is that, I guess I'll defer to Dreher on that. So you're saying basically just some posts and chain along there so someone doesn't cut straight through like that.
Correct.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. I'll accept, if there's no other comments from the board, I'll accept the motion.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah, sure. Please, Glenn.
They had mentioned about doing some stormwater. Will that take care of the bad ponding that Pizza Hut had at both entrances? They always had ponding at both entrances.
Good
Yes.
question.
Yes. There was some sidings out there that caused some ponding out there, and this site's being regraded to ensure positive drainage to catch basins.
Great.
Good.
Yeah, good. Thank
Absolutely.
you, Glenn, for bringing that up. That's definitely an issue on the current property. Okay, I'll accept the motion and then I'll open it back up for any board or public comment.
I'll make a motion.
I'll move that we approve the land development plan 2105 for 21-05 for 2049.
Conditioned on the March 16th letter from David Miller granting the 7 waiver requests according to this letter. And requiring the barrier, whether it's a chain or whether it's a fence, restricting movement, pedestrian movement across the drive-through. We would like to have the motion rather would include having a 5-foot dimension minimum referenced on the plan for the grass strip beyond the sidewalk. Parking. That the entrance to the property from the west through the west property would be marked right turn only. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Well, was that part of the motion, the waiver request? I'm sorry, I was. And maybe I'm. Number 4 talks about sidewalks along streets shall be located no closer than 2 feet, perhaps. I'll make that part of the motion that we do expect a deferral agreement for frontage improvements according to the street statement.
I think you captured everything.
Yeah, I think you captured everything.
Yeah,
I think.
I'll second
Yeah.
that motion, Dave.
Okay,
Yeah, I think you caught everything.
motion was made and second. I'm not going to repeat the motion because it was lengthy, but it was complete. Are there any other comments from the board first?
No.
Okay. Any questions or comments first from the applicant?
I guess with the streetscape plan, just clarification on that. So we will show that 5-foot dimension will include the walkway. I didn't catch all. I think the mentioning about the streetscape plan. I'm sorry, I didn't catch all that.
It's the deferral of the actual walkway improvements there, Chris.
The walkway, right? As I have up on the screen now.
Right.
Okay. Right. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions from the applicant?
I don't think so. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Any questions from the public? If you do have a comment from the public, just state your name first, please. Okay. No comments via email or anything. Okay. Okay. We'll accept the motion. Do a voice vote. Glenn.
Aye.
Dave.
Aye.
John.
Aye.
Ethan.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. Motion passes. Looking forward to seeing the new Popeyes.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda, we have 6C Ames Reese request for waiver of land development planning, 2575 Old Philadelphia Pike. I'm assuming no one's here for that item. This was a Tara. give us
Yes,
some context.
so in 2016, Ames Reese came in and asked for a temporary waiver of land development for a storage container at the front of their building. And that was to get them through storage needs as they went through the land development process. As we all know, they did begin the land development process. It took a number of years for them to almost get through it, and the land development process fell through. They are now coming in and asking for that storage container to be a permanent structure on the property as a waiver, full waiver of land development.
Got it.
It just also was constructed in a,
Right. It met all of the UCC requirements as a commercial building when it was
Okay.
put on the property.
Okay, so it's a quality building, it met all code and everything.
That's correct.
Okay, understood.
Okay, make a motion that we approve the request by Ames Reese for a waiver of land development planning for 2575 of the Philadelphia Pike.
Motion made by John,
Second.
second by Dave. Any other comments from the board? Any comments from the public?
What is the business?
It's Ames Reese.
What welding, manufacturing?
They basically take powdered metals,
coating.
compress them at very high pressures, and make auto parts.
Okay,
Okay,
again, if there's public comments, state your name first, and then we'll accept the question.
I'm sorry, Marvy Hire.
We got you. Thank you. I can be tough on him. I can be tough on you, Dad, right? Okay.
nice.
Any other public comment? Okay, all those, actually, we'll do a voice roll call vote. Glenn?
Aye.
Dave's laughing. John?
Aye.
Ethan?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion passes. Thank you. 7A, reappointment to Park Board, Mr. Frank Hollingsworth.
Motion to reappoint Frank Hollingsworth.
We're so
Second.
happy Frank is continuing to stay with us. We got a motion
Second.
made, second. Any other comment from the board or the public? Okay. Roll call vote, Glenn?
Aye.
Dave? Aye. John?
Aye.
Ethan?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you, Mr. Hollingsworth, for your service to the township. Term is ending 5/5/2026. hard to say these days. Feels like it's so far out. Okay, next on the agenda, actually, I'm going to call like a 2-minute break. And then we'll come back in 2 minutes and you'll be up, Jeff.
Turn your mic off.
Yes, good idea.
Hold on.
Back on. Okay, next on the agenda, we have 7B, Adopt Emergency Operations Plan. Hutch first.
Hutch, is your mic on?
Thank you, Glenn. I apologize. I forgot to
Start
turn
over.
it back on. Yes, I'll start over. So the emergency management coordinator, Jeff Hatfield, and his deputy, Brett Fosnot, prepared a new emergency operations plan for the township. That plan was reviewed by the Emergency Services Committee, and they discussed it at their March meeting. At that meeting, they made a recommendation for the Board of Supervisors to approve the plan. As I mentioned a little bit before the meeting to Jeff, the plan was prepared before the point in time where we made it known that the assistant manager position was going to be a part of our organizational structure. And so the only recommendation I'd like to make to the board is that if you do want to move forward with adoption tonight, that you provide a condition that we make the necessary modifications to
include changes to the plan to incorporate that position into the structure. So staff has reviewed it. We have some thoughts in that regard, and we'll certainly go over those with Jeff and Brett, but we'd like to make those changes.
Great. Good. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you. Yep. Okay. Jeff, do you have any comments you'd like to make about the plan?
I just want to say thank you to Hutch and also to my deputy Brett. Working on the plan, we've worked on it for quite a while. What we did is we took the model from a township that is actually this size and incorporated some of their items to fit East Lampeter Township. So I think it's very beneficial that we have a new plan here that'll work.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Jeff, and to Brett as well, and all others, that Emergency Services Committee for reviewing it and requesting or recommending approval by this board. So I appreciate it. I did have a chance to look at the draft. I didn't have any questions. Any questions from the board?
No.
Okay. I'll look for a motion to approve the adopting of the emergency operations plan for East Lampeter Township.
I'll move that we adopt the emergency operations plan for East Lampeter.
Second.
The change that it includes the position of assistant manager.
Okay. Second.
Made second by John. Any other comments from the board? Comments from the public? Okay. Voice vote, Glenn?
Aye.
Dave? Aye. John?
Aye.
Ethan? Aye. Aye. Okay, motion passes. Thanks again, Jeff. Thanks for staying during the
Thank you, Jeff.
Industrial Commercial Development Authority meeting and the township meeting. You got 2 points today. Okay. Next on the agenda, we have resolution regarding Fund 4 budget change request for 2 plate readers, $25,000. Understand we've been borrowing one from Lancaster City for 5-ish years. Do they want it back?
Well, we're going to offer it back to
Okay.
them. It is older technology, and they may not want to use it anymore, but yes, Chief would like to replace that one and add an additional one to buy 2 at this time using funds from Fund 04, the forfeiture fund.
Yep, police forfeiture fund. Okay.
Make a motion that we approve the change the 2021 budget for Fund 04, the police forfeiture fund, as presented.
Okay. Motion made by John.
Second.
Second by Dave. Any other comments from the board? Any comments from the public?
No.
Okay. Voice vote. Glenn?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Ethan? Aye. Aye. Motion passes. Okay. Next, we have D, 2 Cs. 7D, lien collection execution for 2840 Lincoln Highway East.
Yes, Solicitor's Office pointed out to us that the lien amounts on this property have accumulated to over $11,000. This is a single-family dwelling location on Lincoln Highway, and the last payment of any sort that we received on this account was in March of 2009. So we'd like to move forward to execute on the liens, and hopefully that'll motivate them to make some sort of payment arrangements with us. If not, it potentially would go to sheriff's sale, and through that process, most likely the bank or the mortgage company that's involved would take ownership and pay the debts.
Just a question, the grass cutting line, is that for the entire year of grass cutting when, I mean, I'm assuming one cut isn't worth $770?
Well, the conditions, when we got to that property to finally go, when we went through the full process that we have to go through to get authorization, the conditions there were really rough. I mean, it was really high. So I don't recall quite honestly whether that was one or more cuttings,
Okay.
but it may not have been many cuttings.
Yeah, yeah. Do we believe someone's living on the property or in the property?
We don't really know.
Okay, okay.
I have talked with the neighbor, the
Yeah.
neighbor immediately west of
Okay, yeah.
this property,
Okay,
who's
yeah.
been aggrieved by the conditions
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
There
Yeah.
has been no
I
response.
checked on Google,
no, they haven't been responding to us at all.
Yeah, actually, Tara has it up.
It's
Yeah,
directly
that's-
across from King's Country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have multiple liens as explained and over $11,000. So this is a lien collection execution for 2840 Lincoln Highway East.
I move for lien collection execution on 2840 Lincoln Highway East.
Motion made. Second. Second by John. Okay, any other comments from the board? Okay, comments from the public? Okay, voice vote, Glenn?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Ethan? Aye. Aye. Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Okay, manager's report, Hutch.
So I wanted to mention, we've continued to work with representatives at High and their consultants for the Walnut Street Extension and the Greater Lancaster Heritage Pathway. We are now moving more aggressively to identify funding for the pathway itself. We do have an updated estimate of cost for the pathway. And so that'll help us now at this point to go ask for or identify those sources of funding to actually build the path. It is still considered to be the most desirable condition that we build, or that the road, the Walnut Street Extension and the path are built at the same time. There are concerns that the stormwater management facilities that have to be constructed as part of the project, if we don't build the path at the same time, potentially get disturbed, and that creates stormwater management issues. So we'd like to avoid that. So we are working hard on that. If there are any questions about that, I'm happy to ask them. I did want to mention one additional thing, which has been ongoing since we made the announcement about the assistant manager position. We started right away in our search for a new director of planning and zoning officer. That search is underway. And so we hope to have that position filled by the beginning of June, if at all possible. And we'll move right into our new organizational structure at that point in time.
Great. I want to publicly thank Tara for her service in that position and your future service for your new position starting June 1st.
Yes,
So
I
congrats.
look forward to it.
That is awesome.
Thank you.
We love having you here running the technology. Leaving Hutch to.
Me too.
Yeah, no, seriously, thank you, Tara. Thank you for your leadership. I think we're all excited as a board to have you continue and
I'm
grow
excited
as
for
a
the new
leader.
challenges.
Any other comments from the board?
No.
Okay, I know Lafayette's having a food truck frenzy or something on Friday, and I know you just had a chicken barbecue. I know the other fire companies also, they're in their season of ox roast and runs and everything else. So
Check their website.
yep, check your website, check social media for the fire companies, and thank you for the service of the fire companies. I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
So move.
Moved by Ethan,
Second.
second by Dave. Any other comments from the board?
No.
Any comments from the public?
No.
Okay, voice vote, Glenn.
Aye.
Dave. Aye. John.
Aye.
Ethan.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you.